Good morning to those that have already jumped onto the webinar. Um, Welcome to the Wednesday webinar from Boundary Systems. I will give everyone a few more moments to jump on, and then we will get started. But once again, I just want to take this time and say welcome and thank you for attending. Good morning once again. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar. We will go ahead and get started. Those that may come on or continue to come on as we proceed through the webinar, they'll just jump in where we are. So once again, I want to welcome you all to the Wednesday webinar, Windchill Customer Complaint Management, once again from Boundary Systems. The overall objective, of course, of this webinar is to go through and discuss the Windchill Customer Complaints Management software. What we'll end up going through, of course, is a brief overview of Boundary Systems, a general topical overview, and then, of course, a Q&A following. For the Q&A piece of it, there is in your webinar setup, there's an actual webinar link, sorry. There's an area in there for questions. You can go through and type in your questions inside of there. More than likely, I will answer those towards the end of the webinar itself. So if you have any questions, you can type them in at any time, but I'll more than likely address those towards the end of the webinar. All right, so about Boundary Systems. The first thing is, of course, is myself. My name is Michael Wimberly. I am a technical specialist here at Boundary Systems. I've been working with PTC products for over 25 years now. I've been actually training on PTC products now for over 20 years. I am a certified trainer in Creo and Windchill classes, as well as a certified Windchill implementation specialist as well. About Boundary Systems, we of course are technology leader. We have partners such as PTC, Solid Thinking, eTraj, Autodesk, and other technology companies. We've been the 16th fastest growing private company in the greater Cleveland area, as well as our global presence has expanded because we're now a part of the PDSVISION group that have many companies across the world itself. Our overall capabilities is product lifecycle management, of course, data management, CAD design and consulting, simulation, as well as product development. What you're looking at on the right side are just some of the customers that we currently work with, have been working with. Of course, this isn't an exhaustive list of everyone. These are just some of the companies that that you may be familiar with throughout the different industries. All right. Some of our awards, we've had the Inc. 5000 award. We've also had the Weatherhead 500. I'm sorry, Weatherhead 100, which is Northeast Ohio's fastest growing companies. Some of our major accreditations are we're a platinum partner with PTC. We are a Windchill certified implementer, PTC preferred service provider, as well as PTC authorized and certified training partner in Creo, Windchill, MathCAD, and Arbortext. As far as the training itself, we do have training facilities across the country. We can also come to your facility and do training there as well. So we have traveling laptops that we can bring with us to actually do on-site classes as well, if it makes sense to come on-site versus you coming to one of our training centers. All right. And then once again, some additional solutions. We do cover the suite of PTC software, but we also have additional softwares that we work with as well, or companies we work with, Tactom, Modex, which is once again for plastic injection molding. We have Xformation, which is for license statistics, to go through and monitor your license, the usage of those, when they're being used, whether or not you're coming to the maximum use of your licenses. eTraj for actually publishing of data, searching for data, inside or outside of Windchill is a great add-on to the Windchill suite. ITI is another company that we work with, and they do a lot of software development as far as being able to migrate from one PLM system to another PLM system. They have other things that check your CAD validity, importing CAD, being able to heal those properly. We also have ZW CAD, which was a 2D alternative to AutoCAD, KeyShot, 3D rendering, Sigmaxim, and then Symmetrics. We also have other companies that we're associated with. All right, now overall contact information for myself, you can always reach me through my email, mwimberly@boundarysys.com. You can also reach our sales department at sales@boundarysys.com. You can also visit our website at boundarysys.com. And then, of course, you can always contact us or find our webinars or videos on our YouTube channel. So we actually just go into YouTube, search for Boundary Systems. You'll find our channel. I would recommend subscribing to it because all of our webinars are posted there. All right, so once again, the overall items that we're going to cover. So we're going to view what the Windchill customer complaint management is and is not, and of course show the different sections of the actual experience itself. So what is it not? First off, it is not where you submit your complaints about Windchill. It is not where you go through and vent about Windchill. This is not a venting session for Windchill. So the customer technically is not you. It is actually your customers themselves that you will go through and have this for. So you will go through and actually receive their data and now go through and execute their complaints. So what is it? So it is what is labeled as the customer experience management. What does that mean? So it's part of the quality solution software with the emphasis on the medical device suite. So as you can see on the right side, there's quite a bit of information for quality. Towards the left, you can see that there is a customer experience management. You also have CAPA, you have non-conformance, fracas, all these other items that you can go through and use for your quality areas. So what this basically does, it allows companies to collect, document, track, trend, and report product quality issues, including complaints, that customers can record as customer experiences. So basically, we're able to go through and collect information from our customers that allows us to go through and see, if there's a malfunction, is this a consistent malfunction? If there is a complaint, is this something we need to look at in our R&D department to go in and develop this, redevelop this area, so we can go through and actually see that information. And one of the best things in there, you can track it and trend it, so you can go through and see what the trends are. What are things liking? What are things people are liking? What are things people aren't liking? What issues have we had in the industry? So we can go through and track all that information. And of course, with that, because it is part of the quality suites, it does work with some of the other quality modules. When we actually go into the quality area, we'll see that we actually see right away we have the CAPA, the corrective and preventative actions, as well as the non-conformance management is also available once we go into the system. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a demonstration. All right, so here's Windchill, and I'm currently just on my home page. I'm going to come over to my browsing area, and in my browsing area, you have all your normal areas, so your products, your libraries, your projects, programs, and even any changes that you may be monitoring as well. Then you have this additional icon for quality. When you go into quality, now you'll actually see the quality information. So once again, here's a quality product that we have set up currently. And once inside of here, you can see that there are, of course, the overall details of that quality project, any tasks that are currently associated with it. There's the CAPA, there's a non-conformance, there's the area that we're going to focus on, which is the customer experience. Our team, I'm going to go ahead and select on team real quickly, because what you'll see is that with the quality, there's a whole bunch of different roles that are now available inside the quality. So depending on what information or what roles you're going to go in and use, what pieces of the software or the module you're going to go in and use, you need to go through and assign people in the appropriate roles going through. Those that can actually execute them, those that can actually review them, as far as the actual customer reports. All that information is inside of here, and who can reply to those, who can make changes to them, so on and so forth. So all that is done inside of there. Then we have our discussions, and then we have our reports. So I'm going to go right into the customer experience area. When I go into there, we can currently see that there are several customer experiences that are already set up. These are currently being auto numbered, so it is just using the numbering scheme here, and of course the naming convention as well, auto naming as well. We do of course have our table displays that we can go through and manipulate. So you have open, in progress, closed, canceled, and of course all, and we can go through and customize that information as well to go in and add additional columns as necessary to report any additional information that we want. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to go ahead and begin a new customer experience. So now what we're going to do is now we've received information from a customer, and now we want to go through and report that. Now, the things that we also have to keep in mind is that when we are dealing with our customer report information, there are 4 key areas that the customer experience actually covers. Those key areas are the actual intake, which is basically the information that we receive from the actual customer, and their information, what problems they may have had, things like that. Then from there, we have the evaluation. Well, now we go through and we evaluate whether or not the information that they've given us is an actual um, issue that we need to go through and look into. So it's an evaluation process. If it does turn out to be an evaluation process, then we'll go through and now do an execution. So now what do we need to do to go in and fix this or resolve this or to deal with this issue that we ran into? And then of course, once the execution piece of it is done, all the work is actually done, then at that point, we now go and of course have our review and the overall summary of the process. And as we go through it, we'll see all the different areas that we can go through and excuse me, review. So once again, I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with a new customer experience. When am I going to go through and execute this? So right now, the date, of course, we're going to go in and start this on today. Now, once again, this is when I receive information. So this is the actual date. So it wants to know whether or not this is an approximate date or the actual true date. So of course, this is yes or no. No, this is not approximate. This is actually where we want it to be. So now I'm going to go in and enter in the location. So location wise, I can come in here into search, and I can go in and search for the different areas. So if I know the specific area that I want to look for, I can go through and enter in that information, or I can just do a general search, and it will go through and show me my information. Now, because of the person that I'm in here, I'm actually associated with multiple quality areas, but the one that I'm actually dealing with is the actual PTC electronic equipment quality context, not the archive one. So I'm going to go ahead and select on that area because the area that we're dealing with is the Metro General area. Sorry, Denver Metro General area. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and that now becomes the actual location that we're going to go through and use. The event location where this happened, it happened at an outpatient clinic. The country of the event. So once again, this is because we are global, and not just saying we as PTC, we as companies now, we now have global presence. So we can go through and specify if this event happens somewhere else because our products are being sold worldwide. So the country of the event, the country of origin, of course, all this is the US for us. How was this actually reported? This was actually called in. And then the circumstance for this one was an ongoing use. So what happened, so it was called in, this actually item happened. It wasn't basically out of the box issue. It wasn't based on the first use. This was something after we've used it for a while, something happened. All right, so now we want to go through and give a little more detail as far as the information here. So the primary code as far as what it actually has affected. So we have customer experience. We can go through and expand that. Adverse event. And then what ended up happening was a customer actually ended up getting injured. So based on the information that we received, something malfunctioned and the customer ended up getting injured because of that. But you can also see down here a little bit further, there is product inquiry information. So whether it's marketing support, technical support, or if it's a routine, we can go through and specify that. So we can go through and add any of this information. So as I specified before, a lot of this information currently is based on some of the emphasis on the medical field. So you'll see a lot of information based on that. So we'll go ahead and complete that. So it is an injury. And then the actual summary is basically, we're saying there was a faulty timer that dispensed additional medication. And then because of it, the patient was hospitalized. Sorry. In serious condition. All right. So there we have that. And so that's what actually happened. So there was a timer on the actual machine that actually malfunctioned, and what it ended up doing was giving the customer or the patient more medication than they needed. And of course, because of that, that customer was actually hospitalized, additionally hospitalized, and once again, they're now in serious condition. Now, any additional information for that machine, the machine itself, machine has been quarantined per the clinic's protocol. So now with that, so the information, the customer was injured because it gave additional medication. That machine itself has now been quarantined, so it's basically removed from use. Once again, and that is per protocol of the actual company itself or the clinic itself. Excuse me. And then down in here, now related personnel. So now we want to go through and add additional people to this. So the additional information, additional people that we want to go through and add. So we have Jerry Bloom. Once again, I'm going to go through and select on them because that was our contact information, our contact. Now they were the actual initial reporter. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this individual because not only were they the initial reporter, they are also the medical professional. And I will make them the actual primary connection. Now, related products, there is an actual product that is actually associated with. So I'm going to go ahead and once again find the product itself. And inside of here, this is actually an electrical piece. So we're going to go through and search for the PCB board. So I'm going to go ahead and search for that. There's the actual part. I'm going to go through now and add that as the actual product. And then for this, the quantity is a single quantity. And this quantity is, of course, per, so it's each. And then, yes, this is the actual primary object. So any additional information I can have, I can go and enter into that. So serial numbers, unique identifiers, once again, the lot of the batch that it came from, depending on what information we're going to go through and use. And then from there, once again, for the additional codes, we're also going to go through for we have customer experience information and we have health hazard codes as well that we can go through and use. For this one, it was actually a health hazard code. And then once again, the use is basically a hazardous. So we'll go through and actually give it that code as well. So now we've gone through and specified, this is the initial setting up of the actual customer experience. So this is the information that we received from the customer. It's been documented. And so there's their contact information, there's what happened, and then of course the item that's in question, and then of course the actual code is associated with it. All right, so at that point, I'll go ahead and select next. Now for this, we do have the actual documentation for this as well. So not only do we have a phone call, but we actually have a document associated with it as well. And this is the actual outpatient report for that particular machine. So I'm going to go and select that and now attach that as well. And then if there was additional ones, of course, we'll go through and add that. And then of course, next, and then finish that. So now that initial report has now been created. Now, I have logged in as an individual that is actually in every role that is necessary. Normally, of course, these will go to different people to go through and approve or to evaluate as necessary. But once again, because of the person that I'm logged in as, they're going to have access to everything. So I'm now going to go back to the home page. When I look into my task, the first task that is now sent is basically evaluate customer experience. You can see that this is the one that we've gone through and started. The role that is currently for this is a customer experience evaluator. So I'm going to go ahead and select on that. And now inside of here, there's the actual general information associated with this, but at the very top is the actual task action. So what is it that they actually need to go in and do? So I'm going to go ahead and select on that. What it does, it brings up their task area. So, but before they actually go in and fill in any information, one of the things that's important to do is to go through and review what's already been input. So I've got the information. Once again, I'm happen to be in there as the same person, but because this is multiple people, they'll need to go in and actually be able to review the information. So up here in the top, there's a link for structure. When I go in and select on that, it will go through and give me the structure of everything that we have laid out. So this is the actual evaluation right now. We're currently just in the intake stage, which is where we've gone through and now input the information. So we can now see everything that was put in to that initial form reviewable here. There's a document, so if we want to open up the document, we can go through and open that into Word and review that information inside of here. Down here, once again, are the related products that we have that we can go through and see what that actual item is as well. So we can go through and review this. Now, what we'll also see is as we continue on and we continue through this process, it will continue to expand the information that's inside of here. So as we complete additional steps, we'll get additional information and we'll review it as we continue forward. All right, so the first thing after reviewing, first thing we want to go in and specify, because we are evaluating it, does this event meet the criteria of a complaint? Yes, it does. Is the event potentially safety reportable? Yes, it is. All right, and then inside of here, the reason is there is a problematic, timer issue is a threat to patient safety. All right, so now with that, there are a couple of areas that we can now go through and evaluate or add additional activities for. One of them is based on the customer experience. The other one is based on the actual product itself. So the first one we want to go through and actually set up is for the customer. So we have a customer that was actually injured, or a patient that was injured. So we want to go through and actually have an activity that we're going to go through and set up. So the actual activity itself is to simply go through and get an updated status on the patient. All right, perform a review for this. Yes. Now I don't have to assign an assignee or a reviewer. I can go through, if I want to go through and actually specify exactly who these people are, I can do that. If not, then it'll go to the appropriate roles. So at that point, that's all the information that I want to go through and specify, is that I want to get an updated status on the patient. Great. All right, so that's customer experience information. Now, based on the actual product itself, now I want to go through and specify an activity based on this product. So down here, I'm going to go through and do a new product activity. And then once again, Here's the dialog box for that. So up here at the very top, I'm going to go through and change this to product investigation activity. And then I'm going to go in and specify, I'm actually just going to, just for speed purposes, I'm going to go through and actually copy some text and paste it in here. So basically I'm going to have the the machine actually investigate it for the actual timing issue. So I'm going to go through and create an investigation to actually go through and review to verify that what that issue is. I want to go through and verify that it actually is happening. So that's the first item. The next item, because we are in conformity with the FDA, we also want to go through and add another activity. And this activity is to go through and actually do an actual EMDR review, which is basically your electronic medical device reports. So we want to go through and actually submit that as well inside of here. And then we want to go through and report that information to the FDA. So once again, we want to make sure that everything is covered appropriately. So we're going to go in and report that information to the FDA. All right. And then underneath here, regulatory decisions, any additional decisions that we make at this point, we can go through and import that. Right now, we don't have any information, so we're just done with those two items right now. So we just finished up those two activities. I'm going to go through and select on to finish that. And now we have a customer experience that we need to go through and validate, and then we need to go through and review the information on the actual machine and also report this information to the FDA. All right, go ahead and finish that. And that now completes that specific task. So the next thing that pops up is now to go through, because I am going in and reviewing the information, now I need to go through and start the process of returning the product. So once the product is returned, then what? So once again, return the product process. Same thing, I'm going to go in and enter return product process details. And then the same thing, I'm going to go up to the structure. Now, as I said before, now we can go through and there's additional information. Because we finished that previous task, now we have, once again, still the related personnel. We still have the customer experience information that we just entered in. When I go through and select on that, we can see that that information simply says get the updated status on the patient. And now, excuse me, for the product itself, there's the actual product. And underneath there are the two tasks that need to be completed for that particular product. So there's still the intake information. There's the evaluation where we basically said, yes, this is an issue and it needs to be reported. There's the contact information. And then once again, the experiences, the activities based on the customer as well as the product. All right, so here's the information. So the quantity received, we've gone through and received one of those, and it is once again just an individual item. And when has it been received? Today. And then for the actual return process, we're going to go through and specify, of course, the date being today. The actual process itself is for cleaning. And then once again, the overall comments are once we're going to go in and basically do general cleaning. To prep machine for investigation. All right, so there's that information that we have inside of here. That's all we need to do. So this is a task that needs to be specified. Go ahead and finish that out. And I'll go ahead and refresh again. And now what we'll see is the actual product investigation is now available. Oh, sorry. The other thing that I meant to show you is in my tasks, I actually have 3 tasks. One of them is dealing directly with the product itself, which is once again, now I'm in the product investigation. The other one is dealing with the actual FDA report that we need to go through and set up. And then the third activity is that actual third one that we specify, which is once again the customer experience. We want to go through and validate that the customer's okay. All right, so I'll go into my product investigation, and then once again, select on the actual action items. And there's the additional information. I'll just come down here directly to the product. And now, as you can see, because I completed the first step, there's additional information inside of here. So once again, every step that we go through is actually being recorded inside of this session, or inside of the actual report itself. All right. So the next thing, once again, quantity received is one individual item. And then the actual summary test. So inside of here, we've gone through and said we did a functional test. And then the actual pass fail. Sorry, this actually failed, of course. And the actual test results from that are that it simply failed the test. I'll go through and once again copy and paste this information. So the test results is simply that the timer actually did fail, so it didn't actually do what it was supposed to do. So it did actually dispense more medication than was actually needed for the actual patient itself. All right, so now once again, investigation modes. So down here, we can go through and specify the different investigation mode. So basically what we're looking for is improper output. So what ends up happening is the code is that the information, because of the failure, it gave more information or gave out more medication than it needed to. So it was improper output. The actual product history itself, I'm going to go through and add some additional information here as well. Product history review or manufacturing history review. And then the same thing inside of here. I'm going to copy and paste. So the history of the product itself is that there's simply no anomalies. This is not something that happens on a regular basis. So this is basically a one-time shot. Once again, the review was done actually today, and then the overall disposition. So with the actual item that we're working with, the disposition type is that it needs to be destroyed. When is it issued? Today. Once again, the quantity being 1, and who said to go through and dispose of it? The manufacturer. So this thing basically now needs to be put out of its misery. It's not doing what it needs to do, so it's no longer necessary. Now we're going to come all the way back up to the top based on all the results that we've gone through and specified here, all the investigations that we have here. Now the overall summary for this is that basically it has been confirmed. So failure mode was confirmed, machine overtransfuses. So it basically gives more information or more medicine than necessary. That's it. So once again, all this information that we have, we're getting from the customer themselves. So we're simply going in and inputting this information inside of here based on our conversations that we had, or even just documentation that they've given us. We're going in and now inputting that information into the actual system. Once again, update one more time. All right. So for the actual product itself, now we've gone through and specified that yes, that thing now needs to be put out of its misery. So I'm going to go ahead now and let's look at the actual customer activity. So same thing, into response details. So the information inside of here, there's the structure. I'm going to go back just so we can see the actual progress of everything. So right now we're looking at the customer experience is what we're working on. What if we go down and look at the actual product itself? We can see that currently the actual overall review of the product itself, this has been completed. So it has been reviewed. We can see all the different steps that have been necessary or that have been taken and the information. So that last thing that we specified, there's the information there. And up here is a summary of actually what they're telling us to do. So it actually fails. We're now going to go through and basically put this thing out of its misery. All right. So once again, we're now actually in the customer experience. So now, once again, this task was to go through and get an update on the actual customer themselves. So we've gone through, we made the phone call, we called the hospital, we've checked on them, and we've gone in and talked to an actual nurse. So we've talked to the hospital nurse, and they've told us that the patient has made a full recovery and has been discharged. So we've started it, we've gone through and actually we've reviewed it, we've talked to the hospital nurse, they've told us that the customer, that the patient is perfectly fine, they've made a full recovery, and now we can go through and close out this as well. So once again, we're all doing this in a simple one-day type thing, but of course this thing can happen over multiple days, multiple weeks, once again, depending on the severity of their injuries that they've sustained. But once again, we can at least start the process. And at this point, if this was an ongoing process, I can be taking continuous notes inside of here for each of the stages, and then just simply saving it. By saving it, it just simply goes through and saves it. It doesn't complete it, which means I can come back into it. Anything that I've input into here will be still available for us to go through and review. And then once I get the actual closure to it, is now when I can go through and close it out. And then, of course, now select finish, which is once again what I'm going to do at this point. All right. So now when I look at my tasks, I simply have one additional task and simply go through and review it. So yes, I've got the input information from the hospital that the customer is fine. And now we're simply doing is simply verifying that, yep, that's okay. That information is fine. We'll go in and once again, I reviewed it today. I agree with this sentiment. Customer has recovered. I'm sorry, patient has recovered. No need to contact hospital. All right, and then once again, this has been accepted, and yes, it will be closed. If it wasn't, then we can go in and say no, return to respondent, which basically means that answer is not acceptable. So we need to go in and once again do some more updates to this. But this is perfectly fine, and we'll go ahead and finish this out. So now the only thing left to do at this point is to now go through and submit this to the FDA. If that's once again something that you have to go in and do, then yes, this is now the step that you will go through and take. If you didn't have to submit it to the FDA, then at this point, you're done. That whole process is now complete. So you've gone through and you've documented any injuries that were sustained, any issues with the machines. You've gone through and evaluate the machine. You investigated to make sure that what was actually set up is valid. I'm sorry, what was actually sent in as a customer complaint or an issue has been validated, and now we can go through and actually move forward with that. Once again, if it needs to be a design change because it's something that is reoccurring at a certain stage, or once again, it may be a onesie, then we can go through and do that. But also remember that we also have the CAPAs that we can go through and use. So in conjunction with the information that we have here, if that was something that was an issue, we can now go in and create a CAPA for it, and then actually associate that CAPA to this as well. So we have those additional options. We can go through and add a CAPA report that will now go through and say, okay, this is the corrective action or preventative action that was taken in order for this thing not to happen again. So maybe we changed manufacturing because the circuit board was bad, or it ended up being a bad batch, whatever it may be. So we can go through and now evaluate that information. All right. So at this point, we can now go through and once again, go through the actual reporting of the information. So here's the general information for this. As you can see, it's still pulling the information from the model itself. I'm sorry, not from the model, sorry, from the report itself. So we can see that it's still pulling that same information. And down here, we can go through and specify additional information. So once again, we're reporting this to the FDA. And the information inside of here. So down here, once again, the decision code event did not occur, an event did occur. The event did involve our product or did not involve our product. This one did involve our product. And there was death or serious injury. Yes, it did occur. And then once again, the report is required for that. And then as you continue through, it depends on what you're actually going in and specifying. So because ours did have death or serious injury, then of course a report is required to go through and set it up. All right. And then once again, inside of here, we can have additional information as necessary. We do go in and specify this as reportable and then continue. Now we actually have the creation of the report. Once again, continuing through. I didn't go through and show it last time, but there's the structure information. And you can see once again where we are inside of there, related product. So now we're down here in the related product piece of it. Once again, we can see that this is closed. We can see that this is currently in the creation state. So we can see exactly where it is in the actual process itself. Now, the associations, this is where we would go through when we actually are creating this. When we go to our next tab or the last tab, we can go through and actually, the association, we can now go through and actually relate like a CAPA report or something to it as necessary. All right, so down inside of here, we can now go through and specify any additional information as necessary. So for this, I'm not going to go through each one of these different steps, but what you can go through and see is as you finish the whole thing, there is a report. Oh, that's right. I will need to go through and enter in some information in order for this to be completed. So there's the date on this report, a description of the problem that's in there. Down here, this is the actual board. So this is basically a circuit board. So the common name of that is simply a and then the actual product code itself. For this one, hold on just a moment. There it is. It's for the dialysis machine. And there's the actual item that I want. So basically it's accessory, blood circuit. So this is the actual code that I need. And then once again, if we had the manufacturer's address, we can go through and enter in that information. There's the actual model number associated with it. Down here, once again, the operator of the device. Continuing down, additional information. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of information that can be put inside of here, the initial reporter. So it's pulling all that information from our reports into this actual section inside of here. Make sure I have everything. I think we're good. I can go in and do next. Inside of the next, I can also come over and specify any patient codes, device codes. So all that information that we have inside of here, we can go through and specify as well. And then once again, just so we can see it before I actually close it out, I'm going to go through and open up this report, and it does go through and show this as a draft. But what this actually goes in and shows is the actual PDF version, and it'll go through and show all the information that we've now put inside of here. So all the information that we put in a different form, so all the information that we've been looking at inside of this structure area is now actually being inputted into an actual report. So we can see all this information, and this is the report that we can go through and submit to the FDA, and even actually keep it, of course, for our documentation as well. So there's quite a bit of information. Once again, there are some additional steps to go in and finish out for the actual medical device report piece of it that we're going and report it to the FDA. But once again, just for this demonstration, I'll just leave that to be at this point in time. All right, so at this point, I will go back and ask if there are any questions. Once again, if you have any questions, please type them into the question section in your webinar dialog box. All right, does not appear to be any questions. So once again, if you want any further information, please contact me directly. You can reach me at mwimberly@boundarysys.com, or once again, you can reach our sales department at sales@boundarysys.com. Definitely feel free to visit our webpage. Our webpage has links to our webinars, also has links to our training schedule, any workshops that we may be doing, all the information that we have, all the softwares that we're associated with, all the business information that we have, you can go through and access there. And then once again, visit our YouTube channel. Once again, just search for Boundary Systems and you'll find us, subscribe to it. And then once again, you can review all the different webinars that we've had over the last few years. So once again, thank you for your time and have a great rest of the day.